What is good, YouTube? Spider-Man always here, aka Warstu. If you are new around here, make sure to subscribe to never miss any of the videos. Check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see the beautiful face behind the beautiful voice. Also check us out on the Twitter sphere, aka Twitter, WarstuG. So, I've been asked a lot of time on my Instagram account, in the DMs, to go over the 4chan private screening of Spider-Man No Way Home, which never happened. This is completely fabricated, and there's so many real leaks out there. Anyone could do an Ask Me Anything, but why would someone randomly do an Ask Me Anything and make a lot of stuff up? Because literally there's a lot of people who know the majority of the movie. There are no private screenings for Spider-Man No Way Home unless you are an executive for Sony Pictures, Columbia Pictures, or you're high up in Marvel Studios. They are not screening Spider-Man No Way Home to random people. Marvel movies, as far as I know, I've reached out to a lot of people and they were like, yeah, dude, this is not real. But the only reason we're going over this is because this channel was built upon going over leaks, going over theories, and going over anything to do with Marvel, DC, Kaiju, Monsterverse based stuff. So we're gonna go over it, but take it with a massive grain and pinch of salt, because they don't screen. They do not screen. They do not screen their movies, especially this one. So I do find this very interesting. So it's going to be a bit all over the place because the answers are a bit all over the place, so to speak, when he's answering people's questions. I don't know if you've ever followed and Asked Me Anything on Reddit or 4chan, but they're not exactly the easiest thing to follow. So the ending implies a soft reboot of sort. Well, anyone can say that. Tom Holland literally said the last day of filming he broke down and cried, mainly because he knows the original cast isn't going to be the original cast after this movie. As we know, it's pretty much obvious, careful for spoilers, this is really a spoiler video, that MJ, Ned, and Aunt May are literally going to die in this movie. It's got to be one of them or all of them. So yeah, of course there's going to be a potential soft reboot in this. So let's go over. Goblin looks really cool, and so does Octavius, but I kind of hate the tentacles. Sandman and Lizard are basically the same. Electro is a bit different. He's able to interchange between his human form and electronical form, and his human form just looks like Jamie Foxx now. I'm mixed on yellow though. It looks cool at times, but at other times doesn't. Looks like Thor taking a... I mean, the thing is, this is... We've already seen the designs leak. We've already seen it. We know it's real. So someone asked if Kirsten's in it. Kirsten recently came out and said she's not in it, and every super duper Twitter scooper is backing that up. Kirsten is in the scene very briefly and has no dialogue when Toby returns to the Raimi universe. She has red hair, and they also have a daughter who isn't named. Now, what is interesting about this is that actual exact line was in a plot leak about 6 months ago or so. So it is interesting. And to be fair, I am expecting one of the Spider-Men who come back from the other universes to not die, which would be kind of interesting, but we're going to take this with a pinch of salt. So mid-credits scene, Venom, after credits is Daredevil. So a Daredevil post-credits scene. Interesting. The reason this is interesting, I don't believe it, is because this is a Sony movie. Columbia Pictures. They are the motherfucking distributor. But I guess they wouldn't be teasing anything up. So this post-credit scene with Tom Holland Spider-Man getting the Venom symbiote, it's been going around for a very long time, to the point where no one freaking believes it. Tom Hardy was seen with a No Way Home production hat on, and as we know, they did do something on Spider-Man No Way Home because they did their post-credit scene, then probably did the No Way Home post-credit scene. So I do believe that, but this has nothing to do with the leak. And the other credit is Daredevil. Now, I mean, that could be true. You know, with the leaks that came out this week, you get Charlie Cox, Matt Murdock in Peter's kitchen. Maybe they do tease it towards the end of the movie. That would make sense. Matt Murdock, question mark. Yes, but only as Peter's attorney, really. We see Peter and the Daredevil costume in a mid-post-credit scene, but he doesn't wear it. Okay, only as the attorney, which you would expect to be in the courtroom, but Sony have confirmed the images are real, thanks to John Campier, the biggest leaker in the game, when them pictures came out and he sat in his kitchen. So I don't know if I can buy this is only in one scene. So he's the attorney. He's going to have to be in the courtroom as well, but we know he lands in Peter's kitchen somehow. The spell is done correctly at the end. MJ doesn't really know who Peter is anymore. Ned dead, May dead, and Peter goes off to college. Now, this would be interesting, but there's the Hobgoblin theory that when everyone forgets who Peter is, Spider-Man does something to Ned, thus for making him evil and turns into Hobgoblin. So I don't know if I buy Ned dying and Aunt May, yeah, sure. Peter going to college, sure. We know they're going to set up the next franchise, but, well, whatever the next Spider-Man movie is, because let's be honest, guys, they're not gonna not do another Spider-Man movie. Even if it doesn't happen in the MCU, it could happen in the Sony verse. So far, everything that is stated has literally come from either a YouTube video or the other leaks. Seeing as this person has massively seen it, he doesn't really have any context of anything. But you know what 4chan's like, we're going to it more in depth. Daredevil post-credit scene, he's in the apartment, says something to himself about needing to be a hero. I can't remember the exact quote. The camera pans to show an open case with a Daredevil suit in it. It looked like the one from Netflix series. To be fair, that could be a post-credit scene, the thing right at the end when they're sitting in the kitchen, but then that implies that Aunt May doesn't die, so it can't be that, can it? No. It's based on the Raimi suit, but it's upgraded to some extent. He wears Dr. Ock goggles in the first 2 acts, but he wears the Raimi mask in the 3rd act. Okay, I presume that's referring to something else. Pretty good. Toby's very quippy, but not to a ridiculous extent. Yes, his Iron Spider-Man suit is ripped to shreds during the bridge scene with Dr. Ock and doesn't make a comeback. He almost kills Goblin single-handedly. Aunt May early on in the movie and Toby right before he sends them back to the Raimiverse. They're the main characters coming in during the 2nd act, but Andrew is introduced about 20 minutes before Toby. Peter's getting schooled by Jemberson over something at the Daily Bugle. We see him filing out a job application during the epilogue. Then someone comes in and we hear a voice off camera saying, "Hey, Peter." Camera pans around to reveal Eddie. Toby and Andrew fighting swinging styles are very faithful to their respective movies. Yeah, I mean, guys, so far it does look like a fan fiction piece. So, like, we went over a lot of this kind of stuff during the Endgame leaks times because realistically, the dude has no context for anything, and the context he has gone into is literally been gone over by another leak. And then he goes into more detail. Venom and Peter at the Daily Bugle. Okay, interesting. Daredevil looks at his suit. Okay, this guy seems to be repeating himself an awful lot. So this is where it gets really juicy. We didn't learn a ton of stuff about the multiverse, pretty much. The spell works by borrowing parts of the other universe's timeline, where Peter's identity is still secret. But when it goes wrong, it ends up merging other elements from other universes into the MCU, and it feels a bit confusing when I explain it, but it makes sense on screen, I promise. At the end, yes, we see Mary Jane happy that Toby's back, and they embrace, and they kiss, and they have a daughter, and a daughter comes in, and Toby gets down and hugs her. Andrew returns to his college. There's also a final swing that cuts between the 3 Spider-Man in their own universe. The villains are pretty much handled well, in my opinion. Goblin is definitely the main villain. Dr. Ock and Electro are very important. The Spider-Men are shocked to see villains again, especially Toby with Dr. Ock. The final battle is an epic, but it focuses very heavily on Green Goblin and Dr. Ock instead of balancing the 5 villains evenly. The villains have very good chemistry, but aren't very quippy. Not Stark Tech chips, but yes, Goblin manipulating the villains. So far, you can guess a lot of this kind of stuff. Electro being yellow is actually explained. In fact, it's because he was overloaded by yellow electricity in TASM 2. Think of his suit, yellow form, as Super Saiyan form. Yes, Dr. Ock's tentacles use nanotech from Iron Spidey's suit. Okay, we've seen this in the Empire image. After he destroys it, and Tom has a line about wishing Tony was here to help before the other Spider-Men are introduced. No, I don't expect to see MCU versions of any of these villains. We might end up with Ned becoming Hobgoblin in the future, but bro, you've already said he's dead. But if you look at some prosthetic pictures, Warstu put an image over now if you remember, it does kind of look like he is going to have prosthetics. So according to him, Toby defeats Ock, Electro is defeated by Andrew, and Tom Holland, Spider-Man, defeats Green Goblin and the Lizard. Which, yeah, I mean, this is pretty basic, guys. Really is pretty basic. I mean, for all these quotes coming out recently that it's the darkest movie ever, I mean, it does seem like a pretty basic movie. I really hope this isn't how it goes down. And also, like I said, guys, I've spoke to a lot of people, a lot of insiders, a lot of YouTubers behind the scenes, and this is categorically fake, most of it. But even if it is partially real, you can guess a lot of this movie, so to speak, realistically. So make of it what you want. I will put the link in the description down below, guys, if you really want me to. But I had a bunch of people asking me to cover it on Instagram, so I thought I'd make a video about it. Seeing this is a bit of a slow week and there isn't really much to cover regarding Spider-Man No Way Home news, and I wanted to put another Spider-Man No Way Home Home video out. So like always, check us out on Instagram at Warstu. Check us out on Twitter, WarstuG, and I will catch you in another video very soon. But guys, remember, this is probably fancy piece, and the Hobgoblin theory about Ned does actually make sense if they all lose their memories because the spell, and Spider-Man does think to hurt Ned, and yeah, he could become a Hobgoblin in the future. Peter going off to college, that kind of makes sense. Aunt May dies, pretty much makes sense. MJ dying doesn't really make much sense, but Tom Holland said he started crying on the last day of filming because he knows that the franchise is going in a much different way once they get out of No Way Home. So like always, guys, I will catch you in another video very soon. Catch ya later.